operations between the designer, contractor, and owner. Tender pricing, error in initial cost and estimations, error in initial cost estimation, error in initial cost and estimations, error in initial cost estimation, error in initial cost and estimations, and failure in complying contractual obligations, lack of understanding and agreement in any contract procurement, and adequate CBM scheduling and update requirement, and consultant and related and quality of the contract content, and consultant quality of the contract content, error in contract document, error in contract document, error in contract document, unrealistic estimations, unrealistic estimations, the tender pricing, error in initial cost estimation, unrealistic estimations, error in contract document, error in design and data document, error in design data and document, error in contract document, unrealistic estimations, and unrealistic estimation, error in data design and data and the document, quality of contract document, and quality of contract document, error in design document and contract document, quality of the contract document, and error in contract document, unrealistic estimations, error in design data and document, incomplete design drawing and incomplete design drawing and specification, project schedules, and the error in initial estimates, and project schedules, and the error in initial estimates, client requirement misinterpretation, discrepancy in the BOQ, and complexity of the contract document, client requirement misrepresentations, and quality of the your tender pricings, and error in initial standard cost estimation, inefficiency in the coordinations, and poor communication, inadequate claims with the poor substance, and failure in complying the contractual obligations, and contract procurement, lack of understanding and agreement, and inadequate CBM scheduling and the update requirement. As a quality of the contract, quality of the contract procurement, and content, and quality of the contract content, and error in the contract content document, and quality of the contract and content, error in contract document, unrealistic estimations, and error in contract document, unrealistic estimations, and error in design data and document, error in design data and document, error in design data and document, incomplete design drawing and specification, incomplete design drawing and specification, project schedule, and error in initial estimate, project schedules, and error in initial estimates, client requirement misrepresentations, and client's requirement misrepresentation, discrepancy in the BOQ, complexity of the contract document, client representation misrepresentation, client and requirement misrepresentations, and a discrepancy in the BOQ complex of the contract document, other related terms of contract, technological issue, project condition, parties involved, third party involved, site conditions, and third parties, and organizational behavior, culture, socials, and technical issues, project conditions, terms of contract, quality of the contract content, and quality and error in contract document, unrealistic estimations, and this was error in incomplete design drawing and specifications, project schedules, and error in initial estimates, project schedules, and error in initial estimates, project schedules, and error in initial estimates, client requirement misrepresentation, discrepancy in the BOQ, complexity of the contract document, the negotiation, and focus on negotiations, and mediation, arbitration, litigations, and negotiation, mediation, arbitrations, and litigations, mediations, and negotiations, mediations, and negotiation, and mediations, and conciliations, and this arbitrations, and arbitrations, and this was litigations, and dispute resolution board, and amicable settlement. Negotiations and mitigations, mediations and arbitration, negotiation, mediation, arbitration, litigations, and dispute resolution board, amicable settlements, and mediations, negotiations, and focus on resolving the dispute among the engineers, and disputes and resolving the dispute among the engineers from all interested and parties, and without involvement of the third party. Focus on disputes among the engineer from all interested party without involvement of the other third party, and direct and discussion among the parties to settle this, and quick and informally, and informal process in the legal sense, and discussions between the parties to and get resolves, and without involvement of the third party to resolve disputes, and informal process get legal significant, it is a fault, fast and not involve additional expenses, does not involve additional fast and does not involve expenses, and get fast and does not any informal process, and get resolving disputes among the engineer from interested parties without involvement of third party negotiation. Mediations भनेको चाहिँ informal process where the parties are associated Informal process and parties are assisted by the one or more neutral third parties that does not make decision but facilitate and find mutually agreeable solutions to the problem. And here and here the dispute and here consists of the dispute informal process where the parties are assisted, where the parties who are into disputes are assisted by the third and one or more neutral third party, where they do not provide the decisions but facilitate and mutually and agreeable solutions to find what to facilitate and find the mutually agreeable solutions and for the disputing parties, and so provide the solution agree and negotiating solutions and provide your information things and suggestions things to make agreeable solutions and problems for the disputing parties. Mediation conciliations are voluntary in and in mediations well and in negotiation mediations arbitration and quasi judicial process and quasi judicial process. Arbitration is a quasi-judicial process to the extent that legal protocol is largely observed, and a quasi-judicial process where the legal and the protocol is largely observed, and it is a quasi-judicial process where legal procedure is largely observed. Parties in the dispute agree to submit the disagreement to one or more. Parties in disputes agree to submit the disagreement to one or more neutral third party instead of going to court. And the arbitration here, the evidence, argument, and fact both from sides and issues the final decision that is legally enforceable. And arbitrations and the arbitrations on a binding private dispute resolutions process commonly used in construction contract. And here the parties and in the disputes agrees to submit their disagreement to one, and they are the parties who are in disputes and goes to submit the agreement and a disagreement to and submit the disagreement and submit the disagreement and get the parties and regarding disputes agrees to submit the disagreement to one or more neutral third parties instead of going to court. The arbitrations and arbitrators and get here evidence the arbitrator here the evidence argument and then get facts the here the evidence argument and the facts and give the arbitrator and get here the argument and fact and this was the evidence from both sides and issues the final decisions that is legally enforceable, which is legally enforceable. And quasi-judicial process and that legally protocol is and largely house that legal here than the party who are in disputes and submit their disagreement to the any one or more neutral third party and instead of going to court and the arbitrator now decide the here the evidence fact and info arguments and here the evident argument and facts and get the third party and arbitrator here the evident argument and fact from the both side and get issue the final decision that is legally enforceable. Litigations one is a formal legal process of resolving the disputes and taking it to the public court and if a legal process of any legal process of resolving the dispute taking it to the court and public court where the judge hear the any case review evidence applies law and deliver a binding judgment. And traditional method of the disputes resolutions and often used as the last resort when the other methods fails and are not any traditional method of dispute settlement. Traditional method of dispute settlements can often used when the as a last resort when the other method of fails are not unchosen in contract clear and costly and time consuming process. And it goes to the court and a public court where the judge hear the case, review the evidence, applies laws, and deliver the binding judgment. And here and get a argument, fact, and evident, and from the evident and according to the process, review case studies and apply law and deliver the binding and get a judgment and provide judgment and your litigations, arbitrations when you go arbitrator and get a share not a institute quasi judicial process and is a quasi judicial process where the disputes agree submit their and get a disagreement to the one or more neutral third party and instead of going to court and the neutral third party provide the decision regarding the argument faced and of the both side. Mediations when it goes assisted by the one or more third neutral third party that does not make the decision but in fact find mutually agreeable solutions problem to disputing as a amicable settlement party attempts negotiated settlement after adjudications and and before final arbitrations anywhere the private contract provide and dispute as adjudications board especially under the FIDIC disputes are referred to as DAB and for the formal details and sorry. Okay, so on the negotiation arbitrate and mediations and this was the arbitrations or litigations and the and construction and कैसे बताएं कि तुझको चाहे यारा बता बातें दिलों की देखो जो बाकी जाए Importance of the any construction safety management. What are the nature of the accident and cause of this accident? The construction safety management is the one of the most critical aspect of construction industry that emphasizes protecting worker field. Construction safety management is the critical aspect of the construction. The construction safety management which emphasizes on protecting the worker, protect the worker in the field and public in general. And construction safety management is the management that is conducted to emphasize on protecting the worker in the field and general public in general. As a construction site are more hazardous and the risk prone and get to the environment, a comprehensive safety management is very as a construction is more hazardous and a risk prone working environment. Comprehensive safety management system is very important and get emphasize on protecting the worker in the field and general public in general. Right? In general, public in general, and construction safety management refers to systematic planning, implementations, and monitoring and an improvement and planning, implementing and monitoring and improvement and of the measures to identify of the measures safety measures to identify, access, and control the hazards and improve to maintain safe work environment for the people working in the building and civil engineering activities during the repair, maintenance, construction, and demolition of the building infrastructure like the road, bridge, and other civil structures. And fuck you, यार इस तरह refers to systematic and systematic. It refers to the systematic planning and systematic planning, design, implementing, monitoring, and systematic planning, implementing, monitoring, and improving the measures to identify and measures to identify and control to identify the hazards and improve safe working in the building and civil engineering, building and activity during peer and construction demolition of the building infrastructures. And construction study management, systematic planning of the measure of the area of the systematic planning and implementations, monitoring and systematic planning implementation. And construction study management is a systematic procedure planning and idea implementing and monitoring and improvement of the measures to identify the hazards and improve the safe working environment and identify the hazards and improve the safe to identify and get a plan, systematic planning and implementation, monitoring, and the improvement of the measures to identify the hazards and improve the safe working environment for the people and improve the safe working environment for the people who work in the building and during the who work in the building during the repair and construction and demolition of the building infrastructure like the road, bridge, and other civil structures. And working in the building during the repair and safe working environment for the people who work and get it during the repair, maintenance, and building engineering structures. And the importance of the construction safety management, protecting the human life and preventing the injuries and reducing the financial and economic costs, ensuring the legal compliance and avoid the penalties and protecting public and environmental reputations and boosting products and productivity, project productivity and efficiency and quality. And protecting human life and preventing injury, construction work face and significant higher risks and एवढा আছে protecting environment, human life and protecting preventing injury, construction work face and work significantly higher risks due to the work involvement at the height and heavy machinery and the equipment, electrical and hazards, demolition of the structures, electrical hazards and working at the high height, heavy equipment and the machinery, electrical and hazards and demolition of the structure exposed to the hazardous substance. So management helps to prevent the human lives and any these injuries through the proper planning, design, implementing, and monitoring and improvement. And reducing the financial cost and economic cost. Accident leads to the increase in the direct cost and indirect cost and fine, legal fees, sort downs, and the reputation's damage from the non-compliance add up quickly. Say for increase the direct cost and indirect cost, which include the sort down and reputation damage from the non-compliance and site and safer site, avoid the prolonged downtime and helps and safer site and avoid prolonged downtime, minimize the downtime when you run on new visuals to project to stay on the budget and schedules and the safe working environment and minimize the downtime of the project also to and stay the project on the budget and schedules and stated budget and schedules. And this was protect the life of the health and essentials for the project success because ensuring legal compliance and avoiding penalties. Nepal Labor Contract Act and the OSHA require the employer and get to find provide the safe working conditions. Non-compliance cause the fines and get a project halts or legal actions from the authorities in the public procurement. Safety compliance is often mandatory. It is essential to project success because stories Nepal Labor Act and OSHA require the employer and to provide the safe working condition and ensuring legal compliance and Nepal Labor Act or OSHA required and provide the employer to employer to work in the safe working environment and some non-compliance cause the non-compliance of this stated act and cause the fine project else or the legal actions from the authorities and Nepal Labor Act also require the provide the employer to recommend one recommend the employer and even employer to work in the safe working conditions and by any disputing this and compliance and it cause fine project alt or any legal actions from the authorities and this was in project procurement and according to the Nepal Safety Labor Act OSHA the safety and working environment to work for the employer is any mandatory so disputing this and compliance may cause any fine project also or legal actions any from the authorities boosting of the project productivity efficiency and the quality when the worker feels safe they focus better make a few errors and work more when the feel safe they make and focus better make few error and work more efficiently protecting public and environment and the reputations and ensure exposure accident or substance ample substance lost and in construction, constant safety begins at the design stage and continues until handover. Designer constant also have responsibility and protecting public environment and reputations. Protecting public environment and the reputations and ever as a protecting public human lives and the preventing injuries as they work on the height and reducing economic financials and the economic cost actually increase the direct and indirect cost and avoid the downtime and the safer side conditions avoid the downtime helping project to stay on the budget and safer sites and safer side provide the prolonged downtime safer side provide the downtime which helps to protect project and stay on the budget and schedules and non-compliance cause the project to health and fines and construction site manager first the systematic study planning and need to identify the hazards and improve the safe working environment for the people who work in the building and during the repair maintenance construction and demolition of the infrastructures like the boosting and productivity efficiency and quality of safe organ and protecting public environment and the reputations and nature of the accident electrical accident falls and nature of the accidents electrical accident falls struck by any nature of the accident electrical falls and accident struck by any cause of the accident physical cause psychological cause sociological physiological cause and physical cause and PPP race and psychological or physiological cause of the accident and psychological cause physical cause ra and social cause psychological physiological physical cause and कैसे बताएं electrical incidents and get a false or struck by any and nature of the accident electrical accident and incidents and false struck by any electrical incident false struck by nature of the accident cause of the accident the PPP while any electrical incident and workers who should not work on near the electrical power circuit unless they are wearing the adequate and fall unless they are wearing the adequate protections hazards and the near electrical incidents any contact with any power lines any hazards on the electricity can pose by equipment not used properly any extensions cord not used properly nature of the accident and electrical incidents electrical power circuit unless they were adequate and false when construction always works involve climbing great height in the construction industry leading cause the death of the any false and all the construction safety plans must contain provision in order to protect the work from the worker from falling from the dangerous height. Falls may be due to the unprotected side, and falls may be due to the contact with the power lines and power lines equipment and not used properly. Contact with the power line equipment not used properly. Extensions cord not used properly. Falls may be due to the unprotected side and bad scaffolding. Portable ladder not used properly. Ladder not used properly. Unprotected sides, bad scaffolding and falls. And struck by भनेको चाहिँ dangerous contact between the human and dangerous contact between the human and the heavy equipment, and mostly crane and trucks are the major cause. Crane and truck रहेछ यहाँ चाहिँ. अनि often worker find themselves stuck in between the immovable object machinery or often fallen debris अनि immovable object and trapped during the lift maintenance, caught in between the vehicles and other objects and crossed between the load of the pipe that fell off the trailer and the forklift, and moving part and toppling of the mobile crane equipment, voice exposure as an substance and any strokes and caused an accident and exposure accident and nature of the accident one is electrical and incident and struck by and dangerous contact in the human and the heavy equipment, mostly crane and trucks and often and find themselves when movable object machines and struck by and struck any exposure accident, any hot substance, harmful substance, and toxic substance get exposed to the skins and get dust, noise, and the poor ventilations and falls. Unprotected sites, bad scaffolding, portable and not used properly, and exposed to the line and power line equipment not used properly, and extensions cord not used properly, and physical cause of the accident and physical cause of the accident caused by relating to the machine tools material. Any physical cause of the accident, any accident caused any related to the machine tools and materials, uniform working conditions, and improper insulated electrical motors, and cause of the accident due to the machines, and accident related to the any machine tools, any materials, uniforms, and improperly uninsulated electrical motors, improperly adjusted guarded machines and narrow fixed machines and inadequate working space and cause of the accident and accident due to the machines and improper insulated electrical motors and adjusted guarded machines and insulated electrical motors and guarded machines and proper and guarded machines, narrow fixed machines, narrowly fixed machines and narrow machines and inadequate working space and cause of the accident inadequate and insulated electrical motors and improperly and adjusted guarded machines, improper inadequate and insulated electrical motor, improper insulated electrical motor, inadequate and improperly adjusted guarded machines and narrowly fixed machines and narrow fixed machines and inadequate working space and psychophysiological cause and poor eyesight, old age and physically handicapped, overwork, poor health and accident cause and this was accident cause relating to the machine tools, materials and working conditions, poor guarding and machines, unsafe machines अनि के अरे टुल्स अनि डिफेक्टिभ टुल्स, डिफेक्टिभ मेटेरियल्स अनि के अरे अर्को विक लाइटनिङ अनि वर्किङ कन्डिसन, इम्प्रपर इन्सुलेटेड यो के अरे इलेक्ट्रिकल मोटर्स अनि इम्प्रपरली इन्सुलेटेड इलेक्ट्रिकल मोटर, इम्प्रुभमेन्ट इम्प्रपर अनि इम्प्रपरली इन्सुलेटेड इलेक्ट्रिकल मोटर, इम्प्रपरली एडजस्टेड अनि गार्डेड मेसिन्स, इम्प्रपर अनि इन्सुलेटेड इलेक्ट्रिकल मोटर, इम्प्रपरली अनि के अरे guarded machines and adjusted improperly and insulated electrical motors and narrow your working fixed machines, inadequate working space, inadequate working space, physiological poor eyesight, old age, physically handicapped and physiological cause and poor eyesight and handicapped and old age and overwork, poor health, mental disturbance and होइन होइन यो साइकोलोजिकल हुन्छ। पिएसवाई सिएचओलोजी फिजियोलोजिकल भनेको त फिजिकल चाहिँ यस्तै अनि के भन्छ पोर आइसाइट अनि त्यसपछि ओल्ड एज फेटिक अनि फेटिक पर्दैन सायद यसमा अनि फिजिकली ह्यान्डिक्याप्ड अनि फिजिकली ह्यान्डिक्याप्ड ओभरवर्क अनि पोर हेल्थ ओभरवर्क अनि फिजिकल्ली ह्यान्डिक्याप्ड अनि ओभरवर्क अनि फिजिकली ह्यान्डिक्याप्ड ओभरवर्क अनि के अरे ओभरवर्क पोर हेल्थ अनि फिजिकली ह्यान्डिक्याप्ड अनि पोर आइसाइट र ओल्ड एज अनि पोर आइसाइट ओल्ड एज अनि poor eyesight and old age and physically handicapped overwork, poor health, psychological cause and persons and concentrating over the work may be hampered by his or her worries, emotional nervousness, mental tensions, emotional nervousness, mental tension, carelessness and fear and overconfidence and fear, carelessness and mental cause and mental tensions, nervousness and personal concentrations and maybe disturbed and to the working environment through any these are our worry, emotions, nervousness, mental tension, carelessness, fear, overtension, and overconfidence. Psychological cause for assets and old age, physically handicapped and handicapped over can get a poor health. Anything that compromise the safety of the worker inside is safety issues. What are the major issues that related to the construction safety management? Any issues related to the construction safety management? And anything that compromise the safety of the workers inside is the safety issues and because anything which compromise the safety of the worker compromise the safety of the worker inside is the safety issues and which compromise the safety of the worker inside is the safety issues, anything which compromise the safety of the worker inside is safety issues, the major concerns and major common and safety hazards found in the site and resulting on the injury and death are fall, fire, drowning, and electrical shock struck in between the object struck by while the work and the individual involved in the construction works are directly affected by the injury work and the individual which is involved in the construction work. The issues and safety of the worker are compromised and safety issues and the injury result in the severe of the suffering of the victim, loss of productivity, increase in the insurance premium and possibility of liability of the involved and most company follow the safety policy and the guideline, but injuries are the best of not only being able to establish safety procedure. Participation of the both manager and the workers and is needed for the implementations of the safety programs. Only when these accidents can be minimized and work at the height without adequate fall protection on the intake tower and penstocks powerhouse and the roof of the structural stills and tunnels and underground hazards such as blasting fumes and loose rock, inadequate support water, ingress, poor ventilations, and the confined space risks and excavations and the slope instability at the weir foundations and surge tank powerhouse cuts and plant in lifting and hazard and involving crane and witches truck and excavator heavy and electromechanical erections and electrical hazards during the temporary power use testing commissioning and switchyard work, electrical hazards and during the testing and this is a poor and housekeeping and a poor access and inadequate lighting, safe scaffold, lack of the PPE and poor householding and ओभरक्याट हाइट है एउटा अनि के अरे विदाउट द एडिक्वेट अनि के अरे फल प्रोटेक्सन छ अनि अर्को चाहिँ टर्न इन ब्लास्टिङ फ्युम्सहरूमा वर्क गर्नु पऱ्यो भने स्पेस फोर भेन्टिलेसन छ अनि कन्फाइन स्पेस रिक्स फोर भेन्टिलेसन कन्फाइन स्पेस रिक्स अनि एक्सकाभेसन एन्ड द स्लोप इन्स्टेबिलिटी आर द वेयर फाउन्डेसन्स अनि पावर हाउस कट अनि प्लान्ट एन्ड लिफ्टिङ हेजार्ड्स अनि प्लान्ट एन्ड लिफ्ट प्लान्ट इलेक्ट्रिकल हेजार्ड ड्युरिङ द टेम्पोरेरी पावर युज अनि टेस्टिङ कमिसनिङ अफ द स्विच यार्ड वर्क एन्ड स्विच यार्ड वर्क पोर हाउसकिपिङ अनि के अरे पोर एक्सेस अनि इनएडिक्वेट लाइटनिङ अनि अनसेफ स्काफोल्डिङ एन्ड ल्याक अफ द पिपी अनसेफ स्काफोल्डिङ पोर हाउसिङ पोर अनि के अरे poor housekeeping and poor access, poor housekeeping, poor access and inadequate lighting and is on yes, safe scaffolding and the lack of the PPE, weak and sub contractor control, inadequate training and training in the large barrier and the poor and get toolbox communications and human and factor issues and such as fatigue experience and weak enforcement of the safety clause and are dictated by early and safety department and safety rules followed by the more than this and later than the spirit and management and most companies follow the safety policy and the guideline, but the injuries are the result of not being able to establish safety procedures. And the most company follow the safety policy and the guideline, but the injuries are the result of not being able to establish the safety procedures. And most company follow the policy and safety policy. Most company follow the weak and the individuals involved in the work and the individual in construction work are directly affected by the injuries and the results in the suffering of the victim not being able to come to the work on time and most companies follow the safety policy and the guideline, but the injuries are a result of not being able to establish the safety procedure. Participation of So most of the company follow the safety policy and the guideline, but the injury is a result of not being able to establish the safety procedures. Participation of the both manager and the worker is needed for the implementation of the safety programs. Only when these accidents can be minimized. Only then the participation of both manager and the worker is needed for the implementation of the safety program, and but not only establishing the safety procedures, not establish the safety procedures, and not being able to establish the safety procedures, and participation of the manager and the workers are needed for the implementation of the programs. Safety programs implemented safety program, only then this accident can be minimized. And for ensuring the successful programs and safety management programs, it must satisfy the three existing conditions: leadership and commitment of the management, leadership and the commitment of the management, safe working environment. And for this, ensuring the successful program, it must satisfy the three existing conditions: and leadership and commitment of the management, safe working environment, or safe working habit of the employee. And leadership and then commitment of the management, leadership and the commitment of the management, safe working environment, or safe working habit of the employee. Thus, the employee involvement and participation of the workers and the managers are very important for the policy making and establishment of the safety program to generate the feedback system for its improvement. The ensuring and the involvement of the involvement and I would say the leadership and commitment. Your planning program improve organize, and it must be an leadership and the commitment of the management, and it must satisfy the following three conditions for the successful and ensuring successful programs. And it must satisfy the leadership and commitment of the management, and leadership and commitment of the management, safe working environment, safe working habit of the employee, and leadership and the commitment of the management, ensuring successful programs satisfy the following three conditions. And leadership and commitment of the management, leadership and the commitment of the management, safe working environment, safe working habitat of the employee, leadership and commitment of the management, safe working environment, safe working habitat of the employee, and safe working environment, safe working habit of the employee, leadership and commitment of the management, and involvement and the participation of the workers and the managers are the very important. Leadership and commitment of the management and managers and manager management and safe working environment and a safe working habit and leadership and commitment and a safe working environment or safe working habit of the employee. Involvement and participation of the worker and manager are very important for policy making and establishment of the safety program to generate the feedback systems for its improvement. And the involvement and participation of the worker and managers and
serum and risk him suffering a fatal allergic reaction, or him do nothing, and potentially watching him die from the effects of the premises sticks. This is such a tough move. Harvard is now feeling the full effects of fatigue paralysis. And people no longer stand up. Harvard is getting much worse. So that's really great. I've got a position for him to I just don't think he's going to survive without having the serum. So I'm scared to take the risk of the potentially fatal post attached to all. Now monitoring constantly to make sure it has no nutrition to serum. And we just want to know that any serum is going to work for at least 24 hours. Mr. Bollywood के इकलौते रिपब्लिक ब्रांड पहले किसी भी गाने में ट्रैक So, choking you. It's your favorite. गरम मसाला यार बना लिया गरम मसाला बोल रही है बोल रही है सर्विस की पूरा गांव छोड़ने जा रहे थे सिंगस कहीं या दे देना सिंगस भी की इसमें इस रात को बचाना इस पर तुम क्या निकालना तो ना बेकार हेरा फेरी हमारा क्या फिर से तुम लोगों को नाइन्थ प्लेनेट बनाया जाने वाला है सिर्फ 10 साल की एक बच्ची ने नासा को लेटर लिख दिया है और रिक्वेस्ट की है कि प्लूटो को फिर से नाइन्थ प्लेनेट बनाया जाए और इस पर नासा ने भी रिप्लाई कर दिया है कि इसकी हम जांच करेंगे अच्छा प्लूटो को 1930 में क्लिन नाम के एक अमेरिकन एस्ट्रोनॉमर ने डिस्कवर किया था लेकिन हुआ क्या है कि 2006 में इंटरनेशनल एस्ट्रोनॉमिकल यूनियन के साइंटिस्ट ने प्लूटो को स्टेटस से रिमूव कर दिया था इसको एक ऑफ प्लेनेट बना दिया था देखिए होता क्या है कि प्लेनेट होने के लिए 3 कंडीशन फुलफिल होनी चाहिए पहले ये वो ऑब्जेक्ट सूरज के चारों तरफ होते हैं दूसरी ये कि उसमें इतना मास हो कि उसकी ग्रेविटी उसे शेप पे तीसरी है कि उसने अपने ऑर्बिट को मतलब उसके आसपास को ऑर्बिट चेंज ना हो गई और प्लूटो के साथ दिक्कत ये थी कि उसने पहली तो कंडीशन तो फुलफिल कर दी थी लेकिन प्लूटो के ऊपर बेल्ट एरिया में घूमता है क्योंकि ये नेपच्यून की ऑर्बिट के बाद वाला एरिया होता है इसके अलावा दूसरे ड्वार्फ प्लैनेट्स जैसे एरिश यूरेक और मिलियंस ऑफ ऐसे ऑब्जेक्ट्स भी घूम रहे हैं और इसमें ये भी माना जाता है कि ये बेल्ट सोलर सिस्टम बनने के बाद के बचे हुए टुकड़े हैं जो आपका जो डायमीटर है वो 2377 किलोमीटर है मतलब अगर 6 प्लूटो को एक लाइन में रखा जाए तो वो मिलकर भी अर्थ जितने बड़े नहीं प्लूटो का जो एवरेज टेम्परेचर है वो -230 डिग्री सेल्सियस रहता है और सूरज की रोशनी पहुंचने में 5 घंटे से भी ज्यादा लग जाते हैं सरफेस पे एक बहुत बड़ा हार्ट शेप का एरिया भी है या फिर से प्लूटो को इसको especially because we looked at this. Started on my son Steve in this situation. Go ahead. Jack was reported with a severe kitchen infarct. He had already developed necrotizing soft tissue infection, which had been hospital with a pitching heart failure. And after Dr. Will's assessment, Jack's risk level was the highest priority, but Sean noticed something was off. First problem, there is a small scratch likely from his fingernails, which has developed cellulitis, and an abscess with infectious rice. Fever Jack, do you know what for the transplant? Sean had treated the abscess, but the recovery would take a long time. Jack was worried, so Sean came up with a maggots covered with better, just if you can. Maggots work faster to clear the product debris like it. Saliva and other digestive secretions. Go ahead. After Shorty suddenly notified Dr. Lin because the maggots had worked, Jack would soon be ready for surgery with Dr. Linton. Her colleague, Dr. Howard, her daughter was also diagnosed with severe heart failure. She urgently needed the same heart and wanted her heart in 2 days. As the doctors faced this dilemma, Dr. Woody walked in and could hear neither. Sean went out from that radio that night trying to sleep. He suddenly thought of an expulsion. The donor transplant. Yes. Previous thing that he's the hospital. And received his valves surgeries for blood thinners, but aren't safe with babies. However, Dr. Lin pointed out that Jen was highly susceptible to infection during surgery, so their parents should but the parents were very understanding. They agreed to the plan right away. After the doctors tired of this evidence and surgery was amazing citizen families were saying, this is the truth. And so thanks, इसे ये क्या हो सबसे पहले बिंदा ने कहा था कि काम करता था और फिर बड़े बड़े एक्टर्स आते थे सबके मैं फोटोज लाइटिंग वाइटिंग करता था बहुत अच्छे तो तभी मुझे पूर्णता लेने के लिए बनता अरे हीरो बन गया बहुत अच्छा रहेगा पहले सबसे पहले मैंने अपने आप बोला था मैं फिर बोल जाए ये सही है कि आप सबसे पहले बंदा ने कहा था कि हीरो के लिए बदल जी बिल्कुल लाइफ मैन को काम पर तो ये ट्रेलर डिटेल्स भी आ गई बट अब डिटेल्स की भी डिटेल पे करते हैं कि ट्रेलर से अच्छा लोग को क्या लगा कि ये सीधे डिटेल्स क्योंकि देखिए आई डिड थिंक ऐसा भी आ नहीं देखिए डायलॉग के बारे में बात करें ये डायलॉग एक को बहुत ही तो just
हजुर हजुर एकछिन है
मलाई वाइफाई राखिदेऊ न भाइ तेरो वाइफाई आज सिद्धिएछ अब भोलि मात्रै तेरो जाने आज बिदा हुन्छ राउटर यहाँ रहेछ कि माथि
स्क्यान कहाँ स्क्यान
मेरो स्क्यानर यसरी खिच्ने तिम्रो देखाउ आउँछ
Mostly any company follow the policy, safety policy and even guideline about the injuries are the result of not being able to establish the safety procedures and participation of the both manager and the worker is needed for the implementation of the safety worker only when the accidents and minimized any leadership and the commitment of the management safe working environment and a safe working habit of the any safe working habit of the employee and thus the involvement and participation of worker manager very important for the policy making establishment of safety over generate the feedback system for this improvement and cost of safety program and the manager primary focus and preoccupation is with the economical and speedy construction achievement with higher profitability and successful completion of the work. Manager primary focus and occupation preoccupations and economical and speedy construction achievement with higher profitability and economical and the speedy constructions and achievement with higher profitability successful completion of the work. Economic and speedy construction achievement with a higher profitability, successful completion of the work. The expenditure on the safety in construction is neither included as an individual item or cost nor the is taken into account at the estimation stage. And while making the bid, contractor does not generally do not generally take into account the expenses involved to ensure the safety of the worker. The cost of the safety is not reflected in estimate of the cost of the project prepared by the construction department and agency. There is no separate unit in the organization which has the sole responsibility to oversee the safety in the construction coordinated manner. Non-claim the manager's primary focus the expenditure on safety in construction. Expenditure on the safety in construction is neither included as an individual item of the cost nor taken into account as estimation stage, nor included in the individual item of the cost, nor included in the estimation stage. And individual item of the cost, not the expenditure on the and safety of the constructions and the estimation safety in the construction does not included as an individual item of the cost, nor included as the estimation stage. And while making the bids, and contractors generally do not take into account the expenses involved to ensure the safety of the worker. The bid while making the bid, the contractor does not only generally taken into account the expenses involved to ensure the safety. While making the bid, the contractor does not only generally take into account the expenses and the contractor did not take into account the expenses involved to ensure the safety of the worker. The cost of the worker is not reflected, and cost of safety is not reflected in estimation of the cost of the project prepared by the construction department and agency, and is not only reflected in the estimation of the cost of the safety is not reflected in the estimation of the cost of the project prepared by the construction department and agency. There is no separate unit in the organizations which has the sole responsibility to there is no separate unit in the organizations and sole responsible for the overseas safety in construction in coordinated manner. Non-inclusion of the safety expenditure safety expenditure on the safety in constructions may be the high results and high costs to contractor and or to the construction department. Even of unforeseen mishaps, and there are the direct losses and the indirect losses in execution of the project. So it is in therefore in the interest of all ensured safety in the program. The cost of the safety program is in the construction refers to total expenses a company incurs to implement, maintain, and operate the total cost and for the maintaining and total cost invested in the safety of the worker and to implement, maintain, and operate measures and aimed at preventing accident and total expenses a company incurs to implement and total in expenses incur a company incurs to implement, maintain, and operate and implement, maintain, and operate implement the total cost that any company the total expenses a company incurs to implement, maintain, and operate implement, maintain, and operate measures which is aimed at any implement and operate, maintain, and implement measures which is aims at preventing the injuries, accident, illness, and the facilities on the job sites. Many contractors wrongly think safety is extra expenses, and in the reality, cost of the accident is much larger and usually much larger than the cost of the prevention, and especially in on the remote hydropower sites where the one accident can stop several dependent on what is the cost of the safety program. The total expense of the company in cost to payment, maintain, operate, and measure data. Total expenses where the company also um, cost to implement, maintain, and operate. Um, um, Total expenses were the company in cost to implement and maintain and operate of measures and it aimed at improving, preventing the action, injury, illness, and fatalities in job site. And total expenses it's the total safe program cost and cost safety management, cost of safety management. And total expenses the company in cost to implement and total expenses that a company in cost to implement, maintain, and operate and in that a company costs to implement and maintain and operate and measures which is aimed at preventing which is and measures which is aimed at preventing the accident and injuries, illness, and the fatalities on job sites, which aims at preventing accident, illness, injuries, and the fatalities on job sites. And main contractor and looking at the extra expenses in the reality, this is what the cost of the safety program includes the protective equipment and cost of safety programming includes the protective equipments and this was the training inductions, toolbox stocks, and safety supervisions and toolbox stocks and get a safety supervision and monitoring training inductions and in training toolbox stocks and I'm matching training toolbox stocks safety supervision and monitoring and training toolbox stock safety monitoring supervision and monitoring training toolbox stock safety supervision and the monitoring scaffolding guardrails net barriers lightning in ventilation rescue equipment and emergency management and medical arrangement and this is insurance welfare facilities and medical arrangement insurance and equipment scaffolding barrier lightning ventilations and okay, rescue equipment and emergency arrangement and rescue equipment, emergency arrangement, protective equipment, helmet, harness, gloves, boot, and mask, life jacket, and eye protections equipment, and training and your toolbox stocks, safety supervision and monitoring and training supervision, safety monitoring. The toolbox stocks include and the expenses on the toolbox and the cost of the safety program include and this was the medical arrangement and insurance and welfare activity facilities, camp facilities, camp safety and the safe performance audits, time spent on the inspections, safety meetings and get a corrective actions and the documentation and time takes place on the um, inspections times required for the inspections level and get safety meeting document preparations and corrective actions on uh, training toolbox stocks and safety supervision and monitoring training toolbox stock safety supervision monitoring protective equipment and why cost should be budgeted if any safety expenditure is not included in the estimate and tender the contractor may neglect the safety and face more like higher losses later on. If the safety expenditure and safety management is not and the cost related to the safety manager is not and management is not and implemented and the estimate and the contractor may neglect the safety and if the safety expenditure is not included the safety expense is not included in the estimate and tender safety estimate is not included in tender estimate and tender then the contractor may neglect the safety and may face and if the safety management related to the cost is not included in the estimate. Safety expenditure is not included in the estimate or tender. The contractor may neglect the safety and face the higher loss. Training toolbox stocks and the costing of the safety program, protective equipment and this was the training toolbox stocks and induction safety and inspection supervision monitoring scaffolding and guardrails net barrier lighting ventilation rescue equipment and emergency and medical arrangement insurance welfare and facility survey camp and periodic audits and time spent on inspection, safety meeting, corrective actions, and documentations. And safety expenditure is not included in the estimate and tender. The contractor may neglect the safety and may cause higher any losses later. Accident cost include direct losses such as stoppage completions and equipment damage and the legal expenses and indirect costs and the increase in the direct and indirect costs. And well, yes, yeah, well, the expenditure of safety and is either included as an individual item, the neither included in an individual item nor included in the estimation stage. And the manager primary focus on is with economical and speedy construction achievement with higher profitability and success completion of the project within the estimated durations and the cost. This was it. So the safety is not any given constant safety expenditure is not concerned any that as is not included in the individual's item of the costs are not included in the early estimation stage. These are there are the direct loss and the indirect losses in the executions of the project and no separate unit in the organizations which has the sole responsible of the oversee safety in the construction and coordinated manner. Non-inclusion of the safety for expenditure on the safety in construction may result in the high cost to contractor and or to construction department in event of the unforeseen mishaps. And so there is a there is interest of all on to ensure the safety in construction. The cost of the safety program is in construction refers to total expenses the company and in cost to implement and cost of the safety program because the total expenses and a company in cost to implement maintain and operate measures and safety measures and implement and operate a safety measures aimed at preventing and total expenses that a company incurs to implement and maintain and that a company incurs to implement maintain and prepare operate and implement maintain and operate the safety measures prevent an accident injuries illness and fatalities on job sites and suggested measures and Yogi, the suggested measures to consider any expenditure on any safety should be considered as essentials part of the overall cost of the project, and expenditure on safety should be considered as essentials and a part of the overall cost of the project. While submitting tender expenditures, while submitting a tender, the expenditure on the safety should be separately shown and allowed. The tender preview the expenditure on safety should be separately shown and allowed. And incentives for promoting any incentives and for promoting safety, improving safety, and achieving accident-free execution of the work should be provided. Incentives and for the improving incentives for the whereas while submitting a tender, the expenditure on the safety should be separately shown and allowed. And incentives for the safety improving the safety and achieving any accident-free executions of the work should be provided. Incentives for the improving safety and achieving any improving incentives for the achieving safety and improving this and achieving the accident-free execution of the work should be provided. Incentives for improving Tender and expenditure incentives for improving the safety and improving the accident and get free should be provided. Incentives for improving the safety of the works and and making the free accident prone zone and expenditure on the an accident free execution of the work should be improving the safety and making the accident free execution of the work should be provided. Incentives and training in safety and getting construction should be an imparted and specialist should be created. Training in any construction should be imparted and specialists should be created and training and incentives provided and the cost of the and safety expenditure and safety should be allocated and separately on the tender. Training and again in the safety of the construction should be provided and specialists should be created and any specialists should be training on the any safety concerns and construction work should be imparted and management should consider adopting the following important measures and group insurance schemes for the construction worker and management should consider and follow adopting the following management and should consider the adopting the following measures. Group insurance schemes for the construction worker and group insurance schemes and insurance schemes management should and consider the following safety measures and following important measures and group insurance schemes for the construction worker group and insurance schemes incentives training and specialists should be created and submitting the tender expenditure on the safety should be separately shown and allocated and management should consider adopting the following measures and group insurance and schemes for the construction worker group and insurance schemes for the construction worker incentives to worker by way of safety bonus at the accident free and incentives to workers by any way of safety bonus a way of safety bonus at the accident free construction site and enforcing habit of protecting and enforcing habit of using the any PPE and protective and safety equipment or protective public protective equipment and this was the use of the protective equipment and ensure the habit of using and get a group insurance of the construction worker and incentives works and incentives and get for the workers and get work at the safety and confident free construction site and this was the enforcing habit of using the PPE and the protective equipment and construction equipment safety awareness campaign and of the construction safety awareness campaign and programs for the construction worker and safety awareness campaign for the construction worker safety awareness campaign for the construction worker principal employer and should be undertaken the responsibility of providing good worker and the living conditions safety committee should be set up safety committee should include the work and represent implementation of the construction safety legislation implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively and the worker representation and enforce the relevant legislation effectively ensure the good working and living condition in the camp and facility sites and awareness on safety of the construction worker safety awareness campaign implement the construction safety legislation effectively implement construction safety legislation effectively implement the construction safety legislation implementation of the construction safety legislation implementation of the construction safety legislations self awareness campaign of the construction work and safety awareness campaign of the construction work safety committees should be set up which should include the work safety committees should be set up safety committees should be set up which should include the work representative safety committee should be included which should include the work representative implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively and implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively and implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively and ouch implementation of the construction safety legislation and construction safety legislation effectively safety committee and it should be set up which include the work representative safety committee should include which include the safety committee should be set up which include the safety committee should be set up which include the work representative implementation of the construction safety and legislation effectively implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively safety committees should be set up which include the work representative safety committees should set up which include the work representative implementation of the construction safety legislations effectively and safety awareness campaign for the construction campaign and safety committee should be set up which include representatives and safety committees should set up and implement the safety awareness campaign. Safety committees should be set up safety awareness campaign awareness and enforcing habit of using the PP and incentives workers of the safe organic group insurance and schemes. Training safety and specialists should be created and submitting tender and the safety committee should set up an area which include the work representative implement the constructions and safety legislation effectively. Many contractor work thinking that the extra any expense. In reality, the cost of the accident is usually much larger than the cost of the safety management preventions. And you get especially on the remote hydropower sites where the one accident can cause several dependent operations. And safety awareness campaign. Then safety awareness campaign and safety awareness program. Safety committee and should be included, which consist of the work representative. Safety committee should include safety awareness campaign and for the construction worker. Safety awareness campaign for the construction worker and safety committee should be set up, which include the work representative. Safety committee should set up, which include the work representative. Safety awareness campaign and for the construction worker. Safety awareness campaign for the construction worker. Safety awareness campaign for the construction worker. Safety awareness campaign for the construction worker. Safety committee should be set up, which include the work representative. Implementation of the construction safety legislation effectively. Implementation safety committee and safety awareness campaign. Safety committee, safety awareness campaign. And different types of the equipment you require for the construction of the hydropower project. Earthworm and backhoe loader and for the backhoe loader, excavator and drag shells, drag line, power saws, clamp shells, dozer, scraper and grader. Grader and grading and spread filling and fine trimming the subgrade and grading and leveling the ground. And earthwork like backhoe and loader and excavator. Backhoe loader and for excavations below the ground level and excavator and excavations below the ground level. Power shovels and excavator, backhoe and loader, earthwork like backhoe loader and excavator. Drag line and power shovel and excavations and above its own track or wheel level and excavations at its own and wheel level, suitable for cutting all dry soils and suitable for all heavy cutting, suitable for and below the ground cutting excavations like backhoe loader and backhoe loader, excavator and त्यसपछि पावर सावेल्स अनि त्यो आफ्नो ग्राउन्ड लेभल अनि सम्मको अनि एक्सकाभेट गर्ने यो व्हिल लेभलको लाइनसम्मको अनि एक्सकाभेट गर्न सक्ने अनि त्यसपछि ड्र्याग लाइन फर बल्क एक्सकाभेसन्स इन एबभ द फर बल्क एक्सकाभेसन्स इन एबभ लो सोल्स बिलो इट्स ओन ट्र्याक लेभल अनि for the loose swells, marshy land, and the excavation of the swells, and of the loose swells, marshy area, and the watery area, marshy land and water area, your drag shells and the drag line, and the excavations of the loose swells, marshy land, and the water and suitable cutting on dry swells, mud drag, power sables, and drag line and clamps or grabs and clamps and deep confined cutting in pits and use suitable in the pits and trenches for the excavations. Pit and trenches consider hydraulically controlled bucket suspended lifting up pits and trenches, shafts, pits, wells, and deep confined cutting in the pits, trenches, and suitable for excavations, pit and trenches, and your clamshells, and फेरि के छ भन्दाखेरि ड्र्याग लाइन होइन ड्र्याग लाइन होइन एक्सकाभेटर अनि त्यसपछि यो ब्याकहो लोडर अनि backhoe loader, excavator, and power cells, and power shovels, and drag line, and clamshells, and dozer, and for moving the earth up to the distance of 100 meters. Shallow excavation suitables and can be tracked, mounted, and wheel mounted, and get shallow excavations, and get moving earth up to the 100 meter, and dozers, and this was scrappers, cutting and loading and suitables for the all distance of the suitables for the all distance up to the 100 to 100 900 meter and dozers for the hauling of distance up to the 100 meter. Shallow excavations, scrappers when it was for cutting and loading, scrappers cutting and loading, grader when it was a filling, spread filling, and then making the ground level and your earthwork is on backhoe loader and excavator, power shovel and loader and drag line and clamshells, dozer, scrappers, grader. This was the transportation equipment and railway wagons, dump truck or tippers and flatbed trucks and mini dumper loader and conveyor belt and bucket conveyor ropeway and railway wagons. And when the large quantity of the material has to be transported to the large hauling distance, large quantity of the material to be transported and for hauling and hauling for the tunnel excavations, railway wagons for and railway track and long distance man get transport quantity, large quantity for long distance has to be hauled and for the tunnel excavations for like hauling for the tunnel excavations. large distance with a large amount of the materials to be hauled and railway wagon and tunnel extension transporting equipment dump trucks or dippers and dump trucks and dump load and by lifting dump load by lifting the body with the help of the hydraulic attachment capacity 120 ton capacity dump truck or the tripper and dump truck or tipper and carry and load is lifted and dump load by lifting body and dump load by lifting body and which is dump load by dipper and dump truck or any tipper and dump truck or tipper and dispose the load by rising of the body part lifting the body of the deep tipper and capacity 120 ton and railway wagon and dump truck or tipper and flatbed box or a mini dumper and dump truck and mini dumper is small front in drum response capacity around and a relatively small distance and hauling for the use when the material is transported for the materials to be transported for the very small quantity and around 2 kilometers somewhere material to transport mini dump truck and loader for the and front end and loader to load loose earth into the truck or other transport also used to excavate soft soils and also used to excavate and get a loader and then get a truck mini truck dumper and a loader also used to excavate soft soil and transport to the soft distance short distance about 200 meter and 100 meter mother 2 kilometer value and a dump truck 120 ton and a mini dumper and a 2 kilometer hauling distance loader 100 meter with the soft soils excavate loader and conveyor belt fixed systems and a conveyor belt is a fixed system transport large quantity of the materials from the and one place to another mostly used sand and gravel quarries and mostly used in the sand and gravel quarry we carry a belt conveyor and bucket conveyor and transport loose material vertically bucket conveyors and get vertically loose got and get transport got science especially loaded manually or mechanically and emptying is done automatically loading manually or automatically and get emptying done automatically loading manually or automatically and get emptying and automatically vertical leveling distance and for the transporting and bucket conveyor and or gear drag belt conveyor and rope way used when the material to transport to fixed locations from the fixed locations and rope bucket are loaded manually by machine empty the load automatically even a transporting equipment ever earthwork equipment transporting equipment earth compacting equipment and a seafood roller and a seafood roller and down to remove the entrapped air soils and remove the entrapped air soils and make the soil denser and care compacting equipment and seafood roller and suitable for the clay soils and a seafood roller and the specific padded roller a three-wheel roller vibrating roller suitable for the granular soils when the depth of the field is greater than 200 mm and suitable for the granular soils when depth of the field greater than 200 mm vibrating roller tandem roller and two-wheel and steel drum roller and suitable for the non-cohesive soils that is gravel, sand, crosstrack and tandem roller and pneumatic roller, seafood roller suitable and clay soils and for the clay soils compacting and pneumatic roller and rotary tires and so clay soils compacting bituminous pavements and frog hammer and seafood roller and vibrating roller, pneumatic roller and grid compactor is for the granular roller and grid compactor and vibrating roller and steel wheel vibrating roller and ordinary covered by the steel chain grid suite also granular material and you carry grid compactor and suitable granular material and vibrating roller and granular source for the depth of the field greater than 200 mm pneumatic tire roller and clay source compacting bituminous pavement frog hammer also called monkey jumper and monkey jumper frog hammer monkey jumper and pneumatic roller and seafood rollers clay source and pneumatic grid roller and pipe roller and saturated clay. Mm, monkey jumper frog hammer used in the area to be compacted is very small and vibrating rollers are the compact backfill of the manual culvert or the corner of the structure's handheld operator. Frog hammer or monkey jumper and grid compactor and smooth wheel roller and pneumatic tire roller and sausage was bituminous and steel drum roller and grid compactor yeah, steam drum roller and grid compactor by steel drum roller vibrating roller grid compactor granular and materials and Seep foot roller, seep foot चाहिँ cohesive soils को लागि अनि smooth wheel roller for the cohesionless soils, pneumatic tire roller for the both soils अनि के अरे grid अनि compactor suitable for the granular soils as bituminous pavement, frog hammer अनि for the compacted very small area, backfill of the manual culvert or the corner of the structures अनि backfill of the manual अनि compacting manual अनि culvert or the corner of the structures अनि के अरे impact roller, smooth wheel roller अनि others अनि aggregate and productions and handling screen plant revolving screen vibrating screen crossing machine jaw crusher impact crushers अनि के अरे cone crushers अनि concrete mixings aggregate productions and planning मा अनि के अरे vibrating screening plants अनि revolving screens र vibrating screens अनि के अरे screens अनि separate the aggregate by size अनि revolving screens र vibrating screens consist of the screening plants revolving अनि के अरे separate the अनि aggregate by size and separate aggregate revolving अनि screening plants अनि revolving screen र vibrating screens अनि revolving screens र vibrating screens revolving अनि के अरे screening plants अनि screening plant revolving screen र vibrating screen revolving screening plant revolving screen र vibrating screen अनि screening plant revolving screen र vibrating screen अनि used to separate the screen अनि के अरे aggregate from the plant size अनि revolving screen र vibrating screen अनि screen plant अनि aggregate productions and handling अनि त्यसपछि crossings अनि के अरे machines अनि screening plant भन्नुहुन्छ अनि aggregate the separate aggregate अनि revolving screen र vibrating screen crossings machine jaw crusher impact crushers crossing machine reduce the large block into the smaller rock gravel or the rock dusts अनि के अरे jaw crushers अनि impact crushers र cone crushers jaw crusher impact crushers र cone crushers अनि crossing machines अनि concrete mixings hand mixings र machine mixings अनि crane for lifting mobile crane अनि के अरे tower crane अनि crane for lifting एउटा screening of the plants and your rotating screens revolving screens vibrating screens RV and screen plants and used to separate the aggregate from the size and aggregate by size revolving screen vibrating screen screen plants and your mix and crossing machines and crossing machine jaw crosser impact crushers र cone crusher jaw crusher impact crushers र cone crusher jaw crusher impact crushers र cone crushers impact अनि के अरे crossing machines अनि crossing machines jaw crusher impact crushers र cone crushers अनि त्यसपछि concrete mixing अनि के अरे hand mix र machine mix hand mix tilting mix अनि के अरे drum mixers non tilting drum mixers अनि crane lifting and mobile cranes र tower crane crawl mounted crane self propelled dropper and truck mounted crane and stationary cranes and traveling crane climbing crane safety awareness programs should be and campaigns for the safety and awareness campaign safety committee and safety awareness campaign and for the construction worker and incentives and safety awareness campaign र safety committee and here should be set up we should include the worker representatives we should include any workers and representative employee and employee representative safety and committee worker and safety committee implementation of the construction and implementation of the construction in legislative effectively construction safety legislations and implementation of the construction safety legislation implement construction safety legislations and construction safety awareness campaign and for the construction worker safety awareness campaign for the construction worker safety awareness campaign for the construction worker safety committee include the work representatives and backhoe loader and excavator backhoe loader excavator and drag line power shovels clamshells dozers scrappers grader railway wagons dump trucks mini truck dumper and bucket conveyor and conveyor belt and loader and used to excavate soft soils and also transport to the short distance up to the 100-meter and bucket conveyor and ropeway and specific earth compacting equipment ship foot roller and smooth wheel roller grid compactor and specific vibrating roller tandem wheel roller and frog hammer monkey jumper impact roller and impact triangle square hexagonal drum which is saturated clear चले ही जाना है नजर चुरा के